It's a 9, which is very, very high.
That's perfect, Sam, that we're talking about the UV index because we're actually talking about melanoma now. It is considered the most lethal form of skin cancer, with the numbers of folks diagnosed rising fast. Most of us already know applying sunscreen is a must to protect ourselves from the sun. And while it does help, there are some other very important things to know when it comes to protecting yourself and your family from skin cancer. Today in Good Morning Connecticut, we've got fitness and health expert Lisa Lynn. She's joining us now, as well as the surgical and oncologist at Yale, Dr. Deepak Narayan. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thanks very much, Doug.
So let's talk a little bit about these statistics. Dr. Narayan, you said it's growing. Where are we at right now?
So the CDC has estimated that the number of patients over the last 30 years has actually doubled, which is a pretty scary statistic when you think about the fact that people know about melanoma and still the cancer levels are rising.
Do you think it has something to do with just we're more aware of it and people are getting checked out now?
That is a very good question. It may be a little bit of both. I think part of the problem is most people know about melanoma but are not willing to take the necessary steps to prevent it. For instance, reapplying sunscreen when they're out in the sun, the beach, the pool, and so forth. So I think it's a little bit of both. People are more aware of it, and therefore a little bit more of the diagnosis is being made.
But still very scary nonetheless that it has doubled. And Lisa, you actually have a personal experience with this.
I am a statistic, and I think when I was listening to that, I think you think that it's never going to happen to you. You know, I'm honestly, and I hope this doesn't come across arrogant, but I'm a fitness expert. I take really good care of myself. And I make sure I sleep, I eat right, and yet the truth is fitness and suntanning go hand in hand. And I'll just put it right out there. So I realized I had quite a tanning addiction. In the fitness industry, it's like it looks better tan, we think.
Right.
But so we use sunbeds, which I would caution all of the teenagers, like don't go in them one time because you can't go back and turn back the clock. No. And most of this damage is done when you're young and you don't think it's going to happen to you.
Is that true, Dr. Narayan? Do you see that a lot of the damage is done in that teenage years, early 20s?
That's absolutely right. Just a single exposure to, for instance, a tanning bed can really increase the risk of skin cancer for as much as 75%. Wow. And the important thing to note is that the amount of UV radiation that you get from one of these tanning beds is about 15 times more than what you get out in the open.
Wow.
So that's a pretty big number.
And how often were you going to the tanning beds?
You don't want to know. And I mean, honestly, I could cry saying this. There was a lot of guilt because had someone told me that statistic when I was 15, 16, 17, not legal to go in a bed, I think I would have thought twice. It would have slowed me down.
Yeah.
And that prom dress, now pale is pretty. You know, there's a lot of things we need to know. Like, I wish I knew about these tanning gels or makeup that you don't have to go in a tanning bed and jeopardize your life, and it matters later. 20 years later, when you have kids and someone tells you have melanoma, you're like, what? To be honest, I didn't really know what it was.
Right.
I knew about skin cancer and I expected it, but I was like, until I hit the Google bar.
And you said this happened last year, and then what were those steps that you had to take once you were diagnosed?
Well, the first one I had to take was dealing with withdrawal, staying out of the sun, and even just going in and out of the house. And Dr. Narayan and I wrote a book called Win the Fight, because honestly, I needed something to keep me busy. And I realized there was so much information that's not being talked about that was our purpose, you know, to write this book. The other thing is, I was shocked at when I went out to look for sunscreens that really blocked, how little there was that really worked, or what people don't know and they think, well, I have sunscreen, not safe.
So what do you look for in a sunscreen, Dr. Narayan?
So you want a sunscreen that protects you against both UVA and UVB rays. You want something that's easy to apply, obviously, because most people don't want to apply something that looks bad on their skin. And the most important thing is that you have a certain SPF, which is usually about 35 is a good rule of thumb to use. And if you reapply it every 2 hours or so, about a shot glass full of the stuff all over your body, I think you're in pretty good shape.
And are there other ways besides sunscreen?
Well, you can stay out of the sun. Right. That's really the best way to do it.
It's tough, though, when the UV index is so high and the weather's so nice. That's kind of hard to resist.
That is very hard to resist.
And I think what he said, too, is like we really think we're safe with sunscreen, and that doesn't mean you get to stay out longer. It just means, like, honestly, get the clothes that cover you up, and also you'll age a lot better if you stay out of the sun. So I actually set out with Dr. Narayan's help to go find a sunscreen that would really protect us or my kids. Most importantly, like, now I have a new rule. Nobody gets to touch the boat until you're blocked.
Right.
blocked with a broad spectrum, because kids think it's funny, they're playing soccer, so they've used up their sun budget before we've even gotten to the fun on the weekends.
Right.
And I think that's really important. There's apps you can hit on your phone that I played the game like a pedometer. Let's see how much sun, and I realized I used it up just going back and forth to the mailbox or in and out of the car.
Wow, wow. And I know that obviously sun this time of year, everyone gets a little bit too much, but you are supposed to get some sun, right, for vitamin D?
That's absolutely right. And you do need to be exposed to natural sunlight. You do get vitamin D from your diet as well, but a certain amount of time in the sun is really not that harmful. You just have to be careful about when you spend the time. For instance, when the UV rays are at a peak, say between 10 and 3 o'clock, it's probably not a good time to do it, but before that or after, it's probably not too bad.
Some great tips there. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Some great information.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks,
Dr. Narayan, some great information. And if you want more information, you can always head to our website, WTNH.com.